I don't usually post on here, but I just read a story that honestly made my skin crawl, and I can't stop thinking about it. It was one of those WTF is wrong with people stories you scroll past at midnight but end up spiraling over for the next 3 hours. Some teacher apparently brainwashed her students, like, full-on cult style, convinced them to do mental discipline exercises, drug their own parents, then sneak out in the middle of the night to go live in some cabin she owned. And then, as if that wasn't enough, she tried to get them to jump off a damn cliff together. I know what you're thinking. That sounds too wild to be true. I thought the same. I thought it was just some creepypasta, or a bad dramatization of some obscure case. But here's the part that got to me, the reason I'm writing this in the first place. I know that cabin. I've been to that cabin. Worse? My wife taught at that school. You ever get that feeling when the floor falls out from under you, and suddenly you're seeing things in your memory that were always there, but you just didn't know how to see them? Yeah. That's where I'm at now. My wife, let's call her Marissa, always had this weird obsession with discipline. Not the kind that makes you raise an eyebrow right away. More like she was obsessed with kids being mentally tough. She'd talk about how today's youth were too soft, always complaining, no resilience. That kind of crap. She taught middle school English. Normal school. Normal district. Nothing rural or underfunded. I met her during teacher orientation 5 years ago when I was still subbing. She was charming, smart, kind of intense, but in a passionate way. I liked that. At first. A year into our marriage, I started noticing she'd stay after school a lot. Like, every night. She said she was running a self-improvement club for the kids who needed it. I figured she was just being her overachieving self. Maybe even trying to impress the principal or get tenure faster. I didn't ask too many questions. She brought home papers to grade, had a group chat with parents, and she seemed into it. Honestly, I was just happy she cared about something. But there was this one night, I remember it so clearly, when she came home super late. Way past midnight. Said she had been meditating with the students. I laughed. Thought she was joking. But she looked at me like I was the idiot. She told me I wouldn't understand, that I didn't know what it meant to be called to something greater than myself. That was the first time she made me feel small. And I let her. The cabin thing came up a year and a half into our marriage. Totally random. We were driving upstate for a weekend getaway, and she casually pointed off the highway and said, "That road leads to a little place my family used to own. It's old. Kind of broken down. I go there sometimes to clear my head." At the time, it didn't seem weird. Everyone's got a childhood spot, right? Some weird cabin in the woods where they smoked their first joint or cried over their first breakup. I just nodded, maybe made some dumb joke about serial killer movies, and we kept driving. Later, I asked if I could see it sometime. She said no. Flat out. No. It's not a place I want to share. It's sacred. Sacred? That word stuck with me. She never used words like that. And there was this coldness in the way she said it, like I had violated something by even asking. I laughed it off, pretended I didn't care, but that moment stuck with me. I should have pressed harder. I should have asked why the hell she needed to go out there alone sometimes for the weekend. But I didn't. Because here's the truth, when you love someone, you make excuses for them. You fill in the blanks with your own trust. You tell yourself they're quirky, or intense, or passionate. You never think they're building a cult in the woods. I didn't find the worksheets until much later. They were buried in a folder on our shared laptop, tucked away in a folder labeled Fall Enrichment. I was just looking for some old tax docs, but when I opened one of the files, I froze. The first page looked like a regular writing prompt. Describe a time when someone lied to you. How did it feel? What did you learn? Okay, fine. Deep, but nothing crazy. Then the next page. Imagine a world where parents do not understand your spiritual journey. How would you help them see? And then, Describe a ritual you would use to cleanse negativity from your home. Include physical actions and affirmations. It stopped being schoolwork after that. It was like a damn indoctrination manual. One section literally said, "Draw a map of a place where you feel completely free, far from your old life. Don't tell anyone where it is. Keep it in your heart." That's when I knew something was wrong. Deeply wrong. But I still didn't know how deep. I confronted Marissa that night. She laughed. Laughed like I was the paranoid one. Said it was just creative writing. Imaginative processing, she called it. You don't get how much pressure these kids are under, she told me. They need somewhere to put their pain. But the thing is, that wasn't a writing assignment. It was a plan. About a month later, everything detonated. I was at work when I got the news alert on my phone. At first, I didn't even click it, I thought it was some tabloid garbage. But the headline had our town's name in it. Middle school teacher under investigation after students found near remote cabin. I felt my stomach knot up. I clicked. The article didn't name her right away, just said a female teacher in her 30s had allegedly convinced a group of students to disconnect from toxic environments and pursue a higher calling. The kids had been found in the woods, near an abandoned family cabin. They were unharmed but disoriented. One of them had a journal that included phrases like, "The leap is part of becoming," and "Trust the teacher, not the old world." They were planning to jump. Together. One of the parents had found crushed sleeping pills in their daughter's water bottle and called the cops. That's how the whole thing started unraveling. I swear, for a second, my brain just refused to accept it. I thought, it can't be her. It can't. But the moment I saw the aerial shot of the cabin on the news, I didn't even need to hear her name. That was her place. Her sacred place. The one I wasn't allowed to see. And suddenly, every weird thing she'd ever said, every late night, every cold dismissal, it all came rushing back like a goddamn flood. And I realized I wasn't just married to a liar. I was married to a manipulator. To someone dangerous. The doorbell rang at 6:12 a.m. the next morning. Not a knock, a ding-dong, like it was some polite delivery. I opened the door in my hoodie and boxers, still groggy, and came face to face with two officers and a woman in a blazer holding a badge. "Are you Mr. Warren?" "Yeah. That's me. We're here about your wife." My stomach dropped. Again. I didn't even need them to say it. I just nodded and stepped aside. They were calm, professional, but you could feel the tension in the air. Like even they didn't fully believe what they were saying out loud. They weren't arresting me. They weren't even accusing me of anything. But they wanted access to her computer. Her journals. Her lesson plans. Any hard drives. Any notes. Any unusual behavior I could remember. And I had to sit there, on my own damn couch, listening to them say phrases like spiritual coercion. Minors under psychological influence. Planned group suicide. It felt like I was in someone else's house. Someone else's life. I kept asking them the same question. Where is she? Where's Marissa? They wouldn't tell me at first. But the female officer eventually pulled me aside and said, "She's not in custody. She disappeared 2 nights ago, before the kids were found. She's missing. Gone. Just like that. No goodbye. No phone call. No suitcase. Just vanished into the woods like a ghost with a lesson plan." They left around 9 a.m., but I didn't move from the couch for almost an hour. I just sat there, staring at the floor, wondering if any of this was real. Wondering how the hell I didn't see it sooner. Eventually, I got up and went into the office, her little sanctuary of books and candles and vision boards. That's when I saw it. A leather-bound journal, half stuck under the printer tray. It wasn't hidden, but it wasn't exactly out in the open either. I'd never seen it before. I opened it. First page. Notes for the path. Every page after that was a mixture of lesson ideas, chants, affirmations, and straight-up psychological manipulation. She had mapped out entire conversations. Predictable student responses. Instructions for how to isolate them emotionally from their parents. They won't understand. That's not their fault. But we're growing past them. She even wrote out scripts. Like she was rehearsing. The body is a shell. The leap is the fire. On the other side, we awaken. I had to stop. I was shaking. Like my hands didn't belong to me anymore. This wasn't just some new age nonsense. This wasn't a phase. This was a doctrine. And I was married to the damn author. The betrayal didn't hit me like a slap. It seeped in slowly, a thick, poisonous fog. Every moment we'd spent together, every kiss, every argument, now felt staged. Like I'd been living next to a cult leader who just happened to do our laundry on Sundays. And the worst part? I still wanted to find her. I still wanted to believe there was some version of her I could get back. The news exploded over the next few days. It went from a local scandal to a full-on national freak show. The Leap Teacher, they called her. Suburban suicide cult. Modern-day Pied Piper. Every outlet had a name for her, and none of them made her sound human. I'd barely left the house. Reporters were outside, trying to get a quote, a photo, anything. Some camped in their cars. One of them tried to slide a note under my door. I just kept the blinds shut and waited for it all to stop. But it didn't. Because then the kids started talking. Parents went public with what their sons and daughters told them. Kids as young as 12 described secret meetings after school. Meditation sessions that turned into chanting. Worksheets disguised as imagination therapy that told them the world was dying, and only they could rise above it. One boy said Marissa told them adults were infected with fear and would hold you down to protect their illusions. Another girl admitted she was told to start sleeping less, to prepare for release. Then came the worst part. A mom went on TV and broke down crying. Her daughter had written a letter, a goodbye letter, hidden in her room. The line that stuck with me? Don't be scared when we're gone. We're not dying. We're shedding. We're shedding. That sounded exactly like Marissa. Her words. Her damn cadence. I sat on the edge of the bathtub that night and stared at myself in the mirror for a long time. Not crying. Just blank. Because it was finally sinking in. I wasn't just part of a story. I'd married the villain. Once the full scope hit the media, I stopped being a bystander. People started looking at me like I had to have known. Like maybe I was in on it. Like maybe I helped her. The parents of the kids, some of them used to nod at me at school events, wave at the grocery store. Now they wouldn't look at me. Or worse, they would, with that raw, hateful look that says, "You let this happen." I even got a letter in the mail. No return address. One sentence, written in Sharpie. "You should be rotting next to her." I took it to the cops. They shrugged. Probably just emotional fallout, they said. Grieving parents. But it chipped away at me. I started second-guessing everything. Did I miss signs? Was I too checked out? Did I want to miss them because it was easier than confronting the truth? I kept flashing back to all the times I saw her sitting in the living room with that empty gaze, muttering things under her breath. Or how she'd talk about her special kids, like they were chosen. And how she stopped referring to parents as parents, and instead called them the restrictors. I thought it was just weird teacher burnout. I thought she was trying to protect her students from emotional neglect. But no. She was grooming them. And somehow, the woman I married, the one who used to fall asleep watching baking shows with her head on my shoulder, was capable of orchestrating a mass escape and spiritual death pact. I wasn't just grieving a relationship. I was grieving a life that never existed. Eventually, I got a call from one of the detectives, the same woman who'd come to my house. They'd cleared the crime scene and asked if I wanted to visit the cabin. She said it might help with closure, but let's be honest, what she really meant was they still hadn't found her, and maybe I'd see something they missed. So I went. It was a long drive, 3 hours into the hills. The kind of place that doesn't show up right on Google Maps. I had to follow GPS until it lost signal, then use paper directions scribbled in marker. The cabin looked exactly how she'd described it to me back when it was just a romantic idea, our place to unplug someday. Only now, it looked like something out of a cult documentary. Dreamcatchers hung from the trees. Wind chimes made of bones, real or fake, I couldn't tell, clinked in the breeze. Symbols were etched into the wood slats. Inside, there were dozens of mats arranged in a circle, like a goddamn ritual center. Candles. Journals. A bowl of ash. And in the center? A wide, open notebook with a title written in red ink. The Final Lesson. I didn't read it. I couldn't. I just stood there in that room, feeling like the last person left in a play where everyone else had exited stage left. My skin felt too tight for my body. My mouth was dry. And for a moment, I'll admit this, I almost wished I hadn't come. There was something too calm about the place. Like it was waiting for something. Or someone. Like maybe she never meant to come back at all. After that, something inside me snapped. Not in a "I'm losing it" way, but in a way where I realized I needed to know the truth, even if it hurt me more than I could imagine. I spent the next few days looking for her. Not just wandering aimlessly, but digging into everything I could find. Her old friends. Her family. People who knew her before me, before this madness took over. I contacted her ex-colleagues, asking about her real side. I called up one of her old college roommates. Anyone who might have a piece of her that wasn't shaped by this delusion. They all gave me the same basic answers. She was always driven. She was idealistic. But she never talked about family much. She was intense, but I never thought it would go this far. I didn't care about her idealism anymore. I wanted to know how she became someone who would do this. And why the hell I didn't see the warning signs. I even talked to the parents of the kids who'd been involved. They didn't have much to add either, except to confirm what the cops already knew. Most of them were still in shock. Some of them were angry, but none of them had the clarity I needed. Then, it hit me. I wasn't looking for her. I was looking for answers I wasn't going to find. She was gone, and she wasn't coming back. And maybe, just maybe, I didn't need to drag this out any longer. I got the call on a Wednesday. It was from the detective again, but this time, there was something different in her voice. More urgent. She said I needed to come down to the station. There was new information. I thought, finally, they've found her. But when I got there, it wasn't what I expected. Not even close. They had found her. Or at least, they thought they had. They showed me a recording, a shaky, grainy video of a woman who looked just like Marissa. She was sitting in a small room, surrounded by other people who looked eerily familiar. They were all wearing the same white tunics, eyes glazed over like they were hypnotized. It wasn't some cult leader giving commands anymore. It was her giving the orders. She was speaking to the group, her voice soft and calm, like she was explaining something simple, something peaceful. The leap is a release, she said. When we leave, we join the energy of the universe. We are shedding our old selves to become something greater. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. My chest tightened. I couldn't move. Then the detective told me something that almost broke me. We found her, but she's not alone. She's integrated herself into the group. She's not leaving. I couldn't even find words. I had no idea how to react. Part of me wanted to scream at the screen, yell that she was a mother, a wife, someone who I had once shared a life with. Another part wanted to throw up. But all I could do was nod. And even that felt wrong. It was like I was losing her all over again, but in a way I could never get back from. I didn't just lose her to this mess. I lost her to something deeper. Something that had taken hold of her long before any of this ever started. I went home that night, and for the first time in days, I didn't feel the urge to go searching. To dig. To look for more answers. The detective had given me the truth, the full picture, and somehow, that hurt more than all the confusion. Because now I knew there was no coming back from this. She was gone. But not in the way I thought. She hadn't died, hadn't physically vanished. But something in her mind had been completely reshaped. The woman I had married, the woman I thought I knew, was not the same person. The teachings, the manipulation, it had worked its way so deep into her psyche that she could no longer see the world the way I did. It wasn't just about me. It wasn't just about her betrayal. It was about her need to escape. I thought back to the years we spent together, the little moments that felt perfect, and the times I let small things slide because I trusted her. How I had tried to make sense of the coldness, of the distance that sometimes existed between us, but I always convinced myself it was just stress, or fatigue, or life. She had been preparing herself for something bigger. And I had been too blind to see it. I don't know how long I sat in that living room, staring out the window, before I made a decision. I had to let go. For my own sanity. For my own peace. She was still out there somewhere. But the woman I loved was lost in a place I couldn't reach, and no amount of digging or understanding would bring her back. So I stopped searching. And I let her go. The days blurred together. I didn't know what to do with myself. The life I had built around her, the life we were supposed to have, it didn't exist anymore. It was all shattered, just like that. I started going to therapy. I didn't even know what to talk about at first. I wasn't sure if I was angry or heartbroken or just numb. But after a few weeks of sitting there in silence, I began to understand that the biggest thing I had to deal with wasn't just the betrayal. It was the trust. I had let someone into my life, into my most intimate moments, without fully seeing them for who they were. I had believed in someone so completely, so fully, that when the truth hit, I had no idea how to function without it. I wasn't just grieving the loss of Marissa. I was grieving the loss of my own ability to trust. But as I kept going, something started to shift in me. I didn't have to have all the answers. I didn't need to know exactly why this had happened. What mattered now was what I was going to do with the pieces left. So, slowly, I began to rebuild. Not my life with her, but my life. The life I had before I met her, the life that had been overshadowed for so long. I threw myself back into my work, reached out to old friends, and eventually even started dating again. It wasn't easy, and I wasn't looking for anything serious, but little by little, I began to find myself again. I'm still working on trusting, still working on healing, but I'm getting there. And I can't help but think, maybe this was what I needed to learn all along. Sometimes, the only way to truly understand who you are is to lose everything you thought you knew. It's been a while since all of this happened. I still think about Marissa, still wonder how she's doing, or if she's even capable of realizing what she's lost. But at some point, I stopped obsessing over it. Stopped looking for closure. Because I realized that closure isn't something you get from the people who hurt you. It's something you give yourself. I've learned a lot about myself through this experience. About trust, about my own blind spots, and about how I let people shape my identity in ways I didn't fully understand. But more than anything, I've learned that sometimes you have to let go of the past, even the parts that you loved most, in order to move forward. I'm not the same person I was when all this began. And that's okay. The advice I'd give to anyone going through something like this? Don't ignore the signs. Trust your instincts. And most importantly, trust yourself. People will disappoint you. They'll betray you. But at the end of the day, the only thing you truly have is your ability to walk away when you need to and to rebuild the life you deserve. It's hard. It sucks. It feels like you're starting over from scratch. But in time, you realize that you're not starting over. You're just starting. And that's all any of us can do.